Welcome back to Volume 3 of the Ultimate Iron Man Skiller series, a series where we push the boundaries of unknown mechanics to the edge of possibility and understanding. A series where we showcase the brilliance of intricacies that'll help us shape and create one of the most restricted and unique accounts within the game. In today's episode, we're tackling a predominant amount of quests and wintertodt to hunt for the final few pieces of Pyromancer to then be stored within the POH. This will then give us the ability to withdraw our graceful and get onto more pressing matters, such as a number of time-variant quests, and which I will get onto later on in the future. Now, for those who haven't seen the two previous episodes, I urge you to pause the video and go and watch those now, as these episodes do tie in together like a knot. To further explain our current wintertodt strategy, we'll be soloing each and every game to maximise our construction, which leaves us off with about 71 to 73 by the time we finish 99 firemaking. Each game takes roughly 30 to 45 minutes depending on your attentiveness, and will net you around 250k firemaking XP and about 10 to 15k in construction. By the time we finish our solo, we've at least met the 30-minute home teleport cooldown, which lets us go and store everything worth keeping in our looting bag. Once we finish storing our items, we can then simply teleport back using the Archaeus home teleport, which is obtainable at 60% favour in the respective house. And finally, to reset our inventory, we can replenish the correct amount of food we'll need by using one of the noted rewards not worth keeping, to open the amount of slots we'll need to withdraw from, then simply drop the remaining useless items. Once all this is complete, simply rinse and repeat, and all the levels will steadily climb. Now, one of the huge problems we've run into recently was the removal of the looting bag from the Slayer Master. This could previously be purchased for 30k following the removal of Bounty Hunter. This is considered so significant, seeing we basically lose 28 free inventory slots, making storage now more essential than ever. Also, it's practically hard locked us into wintertodt, as we have to devise a plan on exactly how and when we're going to deal with the goods that remain within the looting bag. Though as of now, I've determined the best course of action is to work towards completing the Pyromancer set to then store and switch out the graceful. This will hopefully drop our weight below zero, as we're heavily bogged down by excess items pouring into our inventory. Now, with all that said, here's a few crates we gathered throughout our lengthy wintertodt grind so far. At this stage, I decided I'd attentively work towards the unlock of Fossil Island. Now, this would unlock a helpful number of items, most notably the frequent birdhouse runs we'll be doing, and even volcanic ash for ultra compost in the future. To work towards kudos, we'll start off with one of the essential quests, Shield of Arav. This quest has recently been updated to where the Phoenix gang member cannot inflict damage upon the Weapon Master, as they are within the same faction. Therefore, we've brought along a friend of mine, DFS, who will act as the third party to kill the Weapon Master in order for me to grab the crossbows without any risk of combat at all. Moving on from Shield of Arav, I decided to do some quests in conjunction with one another, to knock out some looming basic quests that may grant some decent experience along the way. If you're as enthusiastic about interesting collectibles as myself, during this cutscene you can actually smuggle out the dagger. Funnily enough, this was actually found by Chessbra, where you can simply spam drop the dagger whilst leaving the fade out cutscene, which leaves you with a cosmetic dagger that'll be lost upon logout. A useless yet interesting find from the bra. And if you were thinking it was the same item as the Halloween holiday item, it actually has a different item identification. Running up from Misthalin Mystery, we'll grab the dyes needed in the completion of the Goblin Diplomacy. And as I mentioned earlier, I recommend doing quests in conjunction with one another, as it'll save time in running around Gielinor in the future. When doing Goblin Diplomacy as an Iron Man, you can find all three males in the surrounding village, one upstairs in the lookout, one in the house, and one behind the long room. Now, a neat little trick you can utilise during this quest is using the Goblin males and the generals to act as a dialogue skip, making the quest a little faster than it already is. Following the completion of Goblin Diplomacy, we'll head over to Pesca's helmet shop to pick up a bronze med helm for the Black Knight's fortress, in which we started back in Falador. Now, it can be a wee bit dangerous here, so make sure to wait for the guard to attack you, then hold spacebar and the number 2 while you enter the door. On the way over to the Kleiner Korrend, I may as well finish X marks the spot along the way. On a restricted Ironman, your best bet during Kleiner Korrend is firstly do a big loop around the island, starting from the general store in Piscarilius, looping all the way around to Hosidius and back up to the docks. Once here, if you've already completed your Arceus favour, you're free to skip the walk and home teleport, then read the comm orb and make your way back to Veos to complete the quest. Now the lamp reward can be used at any level, which will get me close to level 20 Slayer, leaving me exactly where I want to be. Aside from that, you'll always want to use your favour certificate on Piscarilius, as it's the most time consuming to train from 0 to 20%. Now I've run into a little bit of trouble here. As I mentioned before, I don't have access to my looting bag for the time being, and I'm not able to retrieve another so easily within the hour, and unfortunately my Iron Dagger poison is stuck within. We are going to have to head back to the Robes and try for another. Thankfully we are level 3, so the chances we run into someone from level 3 to mid 50s should be pretty slim to none. After re-obtaining the dagger, I ran back to Wintertodt for a few more crates, taking advantage of low world population after a system update. Now it has been significantly hard to find a solo Wintertodt world. Myself, and I'm sure many others, are consistently crashed due to the heavy load the servers are having at the time being, in which I'm sure we all know the reason why. Upon hitting the milestone of 90 fire making, I then deemed it time to use our poison dagger for its intended purpose. Now before engaging in any form of spawn manipulation, what I'll do to increase my chance of inflicting damage is smuggling the stat boost from LMS, which will leave me with 17 attack and strength. This is achieved by simply potting up inside LMS, then quick hop to another world, forcing you outside the lobby. Once you've smuggled your boost, make sure to quick hop every 11 or so seconds to maintain the maximum boost until you get to your desired NPC. In this case it's a bat, for the bones we'll need during Merlin's Crystal quest, another requirement for Fossil Island entry on a UIM skiller. By pulling the boost from LMS, it'll increase my chances of poison by tenfold, as we don't have any form of potions yet. Now we have the bat bones, I'll grab the flour and water to bake some bread and lumberage for the beggar during Merlin's Crystal. The quickest way to get to Sears Village, and to be honest most places without teleports, would be through the use of Barnaby and Ardy, then charter from Brimhaven to Catherby. Before heading to the castle, grab the insect repellent and head towards the beehives to grab some wax for the candle maker. Once you've reached the renegade hideout, head upstairs and have an alt at the ready for some dialogue manipulation. Again, if you haven't watched the previous episodes, I go into greater detail in those volumes. However, what we're doing is triggering the aggression of Sir Mordred through dialogue, the tickets red barred to gather the kill credit and spawn Morgan Le Fay. Again, you'll come to see Captain Barnaby used quite significantly throughout the journey of this account. Thankfully, you don't actually need to wield the Excalibur during the quest, you can simply use it on the crystal to free Merlin and complete the quest, finally giving us the kudos we'll need to enter Fossil Island. Here we are, back at Wintertodt again, trying for another shot at the elusive Pyromancer boots. I'm honestly quite interested to see if we can even get this before 99. Unfortunately, we've still yet to hit the drop table, so it's time to deal with this pest Romeo always interrupting my chat dialogue as I run past. At this stage I've done just over 30 hours of Wintertodt, achieved over 90 firemaking and received 40 crates with around 27 individual drops per crate, and still yet to have seen the boots at all. So I then decided after a few more crates to finally move on and work towards a few of the RFD subquests. To start us off, we'll need to complete the fishing contest in order to gain access to the passage underneath the White Wolf Mountain, giving us the ability to save the dwarf during the Recipe for Disaster quest. Furthermore, if you're an avid collector on an Iron Man or regular account, both the carp and trophy can be banked as a collectible. Now, the reward from both the Klein of Kourend and the Dwarven RFD mini-quest will grant us 19 Slayer, 1 lamp off our desired level of 20, and I'll get further into that here in a moment. Also, to save a little bit of time, we'll be completing both of these in conjunction, as it'd be wise to simply let the rock cool within a single game cycle within the inventory. Conveniently, as I finished the Goblin subquest, the rock had cooled down and was ready to give to the Dwarf, saving both the Dwarf and the Goblin simultaneously. As I mentioned before, our goal here was 20 Slayer, and that's due to the lamps we have waiting for us upstairs requiring 20 in your chosen stat. In order to get to Fossil Island as a UIM skiller, you must be able to complete a handful of quests that grant kudos to make up the 100 requirement. Now, what some people may not know is that by talking to the historian upstairs after completing both Merlin's Crystal and the Shield of Arav, you'll be granted with 2 antique lamps, followed by 20 or so kudos. This may seem so niche and confusing to some, though I do everything in such a periodic order with certain goals in mind for the near and far future. Everything you see is done in the way and order for a particular reason, so if you're interested in following this as a guide, it may absolutely be done. Moving on with the items we'll need to complete Fossil Island. The Marental may be quite difficult if you haven't yet started farming, so make sure to thieve hand members for one, which took me around 5 to 10 minutes, then pick up the vodka from the Grand Tree. Finally, as we've unlocked Fossil Island, we can now activate all the Mush Tree teleports and create the clockwork we'll need to start our passive birdhouse runs. In order to create the clockwork to then build the birdhouses, we'll need to gather the equipment for the crafting table within the POH. Though, before we get into that, we'll unlock both the rest of the teleports in the bank for unnoting items on Fossil Island. These Mush Tree teleports will be quintessential for transport around Fossil Island, and it'll get us close enough to work backwards from the boat after we've started our giant seaweed runs here in the future. Now that we need 30 smithing to smelt our ore into steel, the most efficient method would be to purchase bronze bars from the general store and make plate bodies outside Taibawanai village. An efficient way to obtain the ores needed for the steel bars would be a quick minigame teleport to the blast furnace to then purchase from the ore trader within. Once inside the house, we'll both make the workshop and the tier 2 crafting table to then create the clockwork. This room will also be used as a tool storage for when we use it later on in the future. And finally, when on Fossil Island, all the tools we'll ever need will be found within the general store in the campground. Thankfully, this will save us valuable inventory space between the time before our birdhouse runs. Over the next few weeks, we'll be prioritising just that, specifically for passive hunter experience as opposed to the seed yield. Reason being is due to the recent update moving the herb sack from the Slayer Master to its more fitting location in the Tithe Farm, which is exactly what's next on the bucket list. With all that said, that'll conclude the development of the build during this video, though I would like to touch on a few key things. Now, I like to make these videos informative yet short and sharp, so unfortunately I don't quite hit the algorithm as much as I'd hoped to. Though a way you guys can help me is by coming together and giving this video a like and sharing the series with your friends, as it'll help me keep motivated to put in the hours to bring forth more content. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment in the form of feedback, and let me know what you want to see in the coming episode. And if you haven't already followed me on Twitter for sneak peeks and discoveries, my handle will be displayed on screen and linked in the description. And as always guys, make sure to keep safe and have a wonderful day.